Welcome to the Read Your Keys podcast. I am your host, Joel Lopez. If you're enjoying the content, go ahead and like, subscribe, smash, squish the appropriate buttons on YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes. Bringing another weekly edition of the college football edition of the Read Your Keys podcast. This is week 3. Ricky Baby.
What's up, Joel?
Doing it again.
Doing it again, man. It was another interesting college football week.
Another interesting one. Big one off the out of the gates. It's got to be the Oregon Ohio State game.
Yeah, Oregon. They looked really good. I got to give them total props. Cristobal prepared them, did a great job. Ohio State. You know what? So your boy CJ Stroud.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a lot of talent.
He does.
But he folds under when the pocket collapses. He makes bad decisions.
I think a lot of the freshman quarterbacks gotten spoiled, right? Because before it was very rare to start a freshman quarterback or even a redshirt freshman quarterback. And now here he is. He's got the keys to one of the premier programs in all of college football. We just had Justin Fields, who was outstanding, but even Justin Fields, when he was at Georgia, didn't look like he did, his last 2 years at Ohio State. So I'm just going to chalk this up to growing pains. But you and I were texting during the game, and I was like, man, why don't they run the ball more? Like these guys were running it, and it looked like it was working well. It was working well in the first half. And they were rotating back. So they had the one back, number 28. And I was like, dang, this guy can run. Like he was
Williams,
hard to
right?
tackle.
Was it Williams?
I don't remember. I just went off the number. I was like, number 28, because they were switching it. I think they had a freshman come in.
Yeah.
Because
fast.
The Ducks were out without Kayvon Thibodeau and Justin Flo, two of their best defenders in the front seven. And I think they said they were rotating a guy at tight end and defensive end. And I'm like, you got to be able to run the ball. Like, you might say he folds under pressure, and that might be valid and all that, but you shouldn't put him in that position with all the weapons they have around him to be the guy that late. It shouldn't have been that, and they were getting out schemed on defense.
Oh my God! So two things on the go back to the offensive side. Olave,
yeah.
Olave was always the middle of the field was always open from him if he was doing ends or slant patterns, right? And he gets a lot of yards after the catch, but they would always try to get these impossible fades to the field. It wasn't working, but when they go into the middle, these guys were going places. So poor play calling, in my opinion, and the defense is terrible. And I read an article that when one of their coaches left, he was one of their top defensive recruits. And they've had a very poor defensive recruiting class like the last 3 or 4 years, and it's showing up now.
Was it Larry Johnson? Larry Johnson might be one of the premier recruit. I don't know if he's still on staff.
For defense, though.
Yeah, defense. Yeah, he's a defensive line. He recruited who's the kid that went number 1? The
Chase
kid that
Young?
Young. Yeah.
They brought him up. They only had like about 2 top 100 defensive recruits in the last X amount of years.
Either way, the article. Either way, though, I mean, they got dogs there. I mean, you still look at them. They were even the announcers. I usually don't listen to the announcers, but they're like, the defense would give a look pre-snap, stay in it, and then no adjustments. Because now what they're doing is they'll give one look pre-snap and then adjust to something post-snap, and gives a different look, confuses the quarterback. There's like, no, they were just staying in whatever look they were in, and it's like, hey, we had talked about Joe Moorhead. He was the offensive coordinator at Penn State when Saquon Barkley was there, and they were putting up big points. He went to Mississippi State. Now he's the OC there at Oregon, and yeah, the dude paid dividends. Like that was the reason why, is to win games like that, because the Oregon offense looked real good. I've never been a real fan of their tailbacks, because these kind of small tailbacks, they look
Fast.
they don't look as fast, but they don't run for power. But they were running through Ohio State, and I'm like, man, these guys look good, and they got big receivers, man.
And
Big
all
receivers.
Oregon had to do was check down to the running back, and they were doing that a whole lot of
Well,
times.
that's the thing, man. It's like you were talking about Ohio State's trying to run these fades and like these, low percentage plays. Uh, It's like, hey, run the ball, set up your pass, use the play action, use the middle of the field. I'm a big fan of the middle of the field. They had I think it was that game. They had a freshman tight end or a young tight end, and he was doing real good. It's like, but they want to get to the outside and do the sexy stuff. But CJ Stroud, he looks good. I just think
He's
that
good.
he's
good.
he's gonna grow into it. So
Mhm.
I'm rooting for him.
Mhm.
But man, I wouldn't put that on the players per se like that. They just looked like they were just out prepared by Oregon. And Oregon, we had said like, hey, they didn't look so good against Fresno State, but Fresno State's a solid team. And now we know Oregon is, because man, if you told me they're two like, I think we texted before the game, is like, hey, Kayvon Thibodeau, he might be iffy. It's like he's out. It's like, oh, and Justin Flows. I was like, oh man, this could get ugly. And I'll even admit I was wrong, because we were saying before, it's like, hey, I think we want to, Oregon is gonna have to keep pace, but they look like they belonged
They
from
set the
the
pace.
get-go. Yeah, from the get-go.
So they belong with Ohio State. We'll soon find out if Ohio State was overrated or not.
I mean, I guess that's going to be the
I
thing,
don't
right, for
think
the
Oregon
first
is the
few
number
weeks.
4 ranked team in the country, but I think they put them way up there. But you know what? Good for them. Good for them.
I don't know if I really think that there's going to be a few 1 and 2 loss teams this year. It seems like that's that kind of year where, Clemson already has a loss, Ohio State already has a loss.
They can't lose again. They won't go.
Who's that?
Ohio State and Clemson. They're not going in with 2 losses. The
No,
2-loss teams only comes from one conference, baby.
yeah, no, I know, but I just think that this is that kind of year where I don't think there's going to be like a few undefeated teams that kind of go
Well,
through. And I think right now I mean, it's one game, and they played Miami, and they played like Mercer, but Alabama looks to be the class, and then there's a big bunch below them,
Mhm.
and that whole bunch is gonna, I think, take a loss or two. So
sure.
let's see, Oregon, Ohio State, and then the big surprise was Texas and Arkansas.
Welcome to the SEC, Texas.
Suey.
Welcome to the SEC.
Those Arkansas boys were hitting, man. I watched because I had date night, so I took off. But part of it, what I watched, I was like, man, these guys are smacking them, and they set the pace. They look good. I forgot to look up who is the coach for Arkansas. I meant to look that up before we got started.
While you're looking that up, Texas was already having quarterback problems. So remember, you talked about how good Louisiana looked against Texas. So Louisiana now ain't that good. Okay. Like I said earlier, Texas wasn't that good, obviously. And then Texas gets smashed by Arkansas, but Sarkisian was already having a quarterback problem on who to start, and he stuck with the wrong guy against Arkansas. Now he's making the switch for the next game.
Who's the sorry, could you repeat that? Because I saw the coach for Arkansas, Sam Pittman. He was the offensive line coach for Georgia before. I was like, I had never heard of him. Like, that was,
How long have you been there?
this is
First year?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
We just closed out that tab. But yeah, yeah, because it was an interim, because it was Chad Morris. He was an OC from Clemson.
Okay.
And then they had an interim guy, and now him.
Last thing the SEC West needs is another good team.
Those boys were fired up. That was, the crowd was into it, man. And they beat them up. I don't know what the final score was, but
40-14.
it was not close. It was like you watch the game and you're like, okay, Texas, like watching them against Louisiana, it was close, and I was more impressed with Louisiana than I was with Texas,
Because
because
you
Texas.
thought Texas was good. That's why.
No, because I just know that Texas has dogs, and I think Louisiana doesn't have the same 4 and 5 star recruits that Texas does, right? Right.
Mm.
Talent, the talent level. You knew that Texas had the talent, whereas Louisiana was like, well, let's see how these guys do. And I thought that they look like they they look like they belonged against Texas, but then now we see that Texas doesn't look like it belongs against the SEC. But I mean,
Not yet.
not I can it's one thing, because I think Arkansas jumped up, way up in the polls, and I think Texas the week before had jumped up because they won their game, and it was like, hey, Sark won his first game, everybody's excited, but
Against a quote unquote ranked Louisiana team.
yeah. So man, Arkansas looked good though. So, and
We'll
it might be one of
see.
those things too where Texas is they start reading the press really early. The criticism with Sarkisian when he was at Washington is they used to call him 7-win Sark.
Mm. I don't know what Texas was reading, what press Texas was reading. They weren't anything major. They were ranked 15 to start the season, and
Yeah.
that was because Sark's there and they were pumping up that.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't do anything in the last few years to warrant any great expectations other than hire Sark from Alabama.
Yeah.
And Sark did a good job under Saban with Bama's offense.
Yeah. And
So,
and a lot of people have done so, and they say, hey, because he's got a stacked O line,
yep,
stacked running backs, stacked
yep,
wide
NFL
receivers.
players.
Yeah.
How
So
you not do good?
you can draw it up however you want.
Hire me, Coach Saban.
So yeah, that was a surprise on both ends, that Texas, basically got run out the building, and Arkansas was basically they bullied them from what I saw. And then I saw the end score, and I was like, wow, I didn't think that was gonna happen. But you can kind of see the way the game was going, that they were just building and building throughout it. So
Yep.
Another surprise game was the A&M Colorado game. I thought Colorado was gonna get boat raced.
Well, they would have. A&M lost their quarterback, and the second string quarterback just wasn't performing. A&M defense stepped up. Pac-12 gets so lucky. You play the SEC when their quarterback's out. So you knocked out the quarterback in I think the third play or third drive. I can't remember which one it was. And so he's got a fractured leg, so he's out for like 7 weeks. So A&M's done, because so I think his name's Saldana is the back, or Calvada is the backup, and he did not look good at all. So maybe he'll grow into that position, but A&M can't win with him. You only scored 10 points on Colorado. No,
Colorado's not they're not known for being stingy on defense. They should have been able to run up and down on them.
Now it was predictable that A&M would shut Colorado down. The defense did a great job of shutting them down, but you're not going to do that when you start going into conference play.
Yeah, you can't say anything to the defense. They only give up 7 points, especially nowadays. Like, that's incredible, right? Mm-hmm. Like 20 years ago, you say, oh, you can shut it down to 7 points, but now with the way they spread the ball out so wide and getting players in space, like that's a tremendous job to be able to hold them to 7. I thought Colorado had a chance. I think it was like 3rd and 10 on their last drive, and it was like, you're going to go for it on 4th down. You should have set up a play to at least get something more manageable. Didn't get anything on 3rd. Same thing on 4th. Game was over. It's like, yeah, Carl Dorrell, he was the coach at UCLA, and that was a criticism. He was just, very conservative. But
yep. So I don't want to hear about that was a surprise. No, circumstances created that situation, and A&M came through. I don't think it's fair to penalize them for winning with their backup quarterback and dropping them as far as they did. But
how far did they drop?
So A&M should be 4th right now, because they were 5th and they dropped like to 9th, I think.
No, they're 7. They just dropped 2 spots. That's fine. It's early. It's not like they went down to like 15
Well,
or
you
something.
drop from winning
Well,
with
because
your backup.
Oregon moved up, so everybody that Oregon moved in front of is gonna move back.
All right.
So
Someone else leapfrogged A&M too.
um, Iowa,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, they had the big win against Iowa
The big
State.
win. Those are 2 overrated rankings. I don't even want to hear that.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I mean, you asked me if I watch the game. It's I have a hard time watching those two
No,
teams play,
no.
or individually too. Like it's like, oh, the Iowa game is on. It's just like I don't feel like watching that. Or Iowa State is playing. It's like unless they were like playing somebody like Texas or Oklahoma, and they were making the game interesting or it was battle, then I'll watch
Mhm.
it. But I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not.
I'm with
Yeah,
you.
it's hard. It's.
And
I don't
I
know
think
what it is.
I called Iowa anyway. So
Yes. So that game was, and then the big shocker. Well, not the big shocker, but Notre Dame Toledo. I didn't get to watch the game because I didn't think it was even something to be on my radar.
so how good is Notre Dame when they're saying, "Hey, Florida State's back. They're competitive. They hung with Notre Dame," and then Jackson State,
That's right.
not Jackson State, Jacksonville,
Bill.
on the last play of a Hail Mary. They shouldn't have even been in that position. Florida State only scored 17 points then, right? And then Notre Dame blows an 18-point lead against them. That game goes into overtime with Florida State, who's not good. And they struggle against Toledo.
The
How
thing
come
with
they
that,
don't drop?
the thing with that Florida, it wasn't like a Hail Mary like you think of it. Did you see the play? It
I
wasn't
did
like
see the
it
play.
wasn't like
It was intended to be a Hail Mary.
well, it wasn't even close to the end zone because usually it's like, hey, they throw to the end zone and it gets tipped
Mm-hmm.
around or something and you can get the catch. Like, no, the guy caught it like at the 15-yard line. There was
He was
two guys.
open.
There was 2 guys who had a shot at him and he
Yes.
jukes him and makes his way in, it makes it even more fun. It's like, oh my gosh, like
Terrible.
I did not think it wasn't because you see Hail Mary. That's like that wasn't a Hail Mary. They just
Yeah, Hail
it was
Mary's
just
a bad. It was
yeah
intended to be one, but it
yeah
wasn't one. Yeah.
yeah. I was like, man, so you could say a letdown from the week before, but
No,
still, that's a paycheck game. You don't lose a
no.
paycheck game.
If that's a letdown from the week before, Stony Brook has a shot at Oregon.
That's true.
Yeah. So no.
Everybody has a chance. Yeah, Jacksonville
Yeah.
State is Jacksonville State. Is that Dion's school?
No. Dion's at Jackson State.
Jackson State. All right. So there were some fun games. Utah versus BYU, the Holy War. BYU won that game. It's not a surprise, but
You know what? I thought Utah was better than that. I thought Utah could beat BYU. Now you got to BYU should. Well, they're going to the Big 12. I always thought the Pac-12 should have went after BYU.
I thought so too. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, it's a religious school, so the Pac-12 won't have a man. It's like, man,
But they don't play on Sundays. Neither did no one in college football plays on Sundays.
yeah, I don't care. I thought it would have been great to have Utah BYU. Now you have it's a good rivalry because I mean that's a BYU, goes back 20, 30 years. They were winning natties. So they're a they're
One
a
natty.
they're a storied franchise. They're a storied college. It's hard to win. It's hard to get. You got to remember too, you got to get kids there that are going to take missions and come back. So you're not going to get the top, 5-star recruits going there.
Nope,
They're good. They're good. They're good for what they can get. Same thing with Navy, right? Like you're not going to get 5-star kids there. But I thought the Pac-12 made a mistake not bringing them in, and now they're going to the Big 12, and the Big 12 now is just going to be, it's nothing sexy. It's like you lost. You lost.
You lost your 2 sexy schools.
Yeah, you lost, exactly. Let's say your two tens, your 2 hot tens.
And so you went to the AAC.
So
took 3 teams plus an independent to replace your 2 gorgeous girls.
Yeah. Would be like you traded out your playmates for your, I don't know. But yeah, you got 2 10s out and you brought in 4 6s. Okay.
and they're still better than the Pac-12. Continue.
No, stop. Oh, let's go to Miami, Appalachian State. I wasn't able to watch it because it wasn't on TV where I'm at.
What?
No, it was on it was like on ESPNU or something like that. So that was like,
You don't have it. So it was on TV where you're at. You just don't have ESPNU.
yeah, I'm not gonna pay extra to watch that anyway.
I don't know. It's not extra on mine.
Oh, you have YouTube TV, right?
Yes, I do.
All right, I have cable, so. But either way, I mean,
It was a nothing burger.
It was close, man. 23-25.
Yeah. You know what? Miami's offensive line is not good, and De'Aaron King is underperforming right now. Receivers drop balls. Miami's not a good team. We'll see. Now we got the Michigan State, so
hold on.
Michigan State's got a D.
Best part of the Miami Appalachian State game, I saw it. The cat being saved in the stands.
Yeah. So now 2 Miami games, and the best things were Fire Diaz and the cat being saved in the stands.
Well, and then on your end personally, the popcorn, which none of us were able to experience.
No,
but Fire Diaz. Yeah. So really quick, Stanford just mopped the floor with SC after not looking good against Kansas State. I mean, Kansas State is a solid program, but Clay Helton gets fired. Clay Helton gets fired.
Yes, he did. You know what? So they wanted to fire him a long time ago.
Clay Helton, yeah. I mean,
but then Swan signed him to like an impossible firing contract, and then the new AD just had enough and said, you know what? We're just going to bite the bullet, pay you $10 million, get out of here. We need to win a national championship. So they're not going to do it this year, obviously.
No.
You know, a new name came up today for their head coaching job.
Let's talk about that. Go ahead.
Eric Bieniemy.
That's not bad at all.
The SC fans that I've talked to don't want him. They think
listen, he was great. He was a good recruiter. He's a good recruiter. So he knows the ins and outs because he was at UCLA. He recruited Maurice Jones-Drew because he had a chance between going to SC and UCLA. So this is going back, but he was very good on staff there. He was on staff at Colorado. I think who was the coach? Somebody came back to Colorado, but he was on staff there, I think.
Bieniemy was, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that was before UCLA or after, but he kind of had moved up from because at UCLA he is running backs coach. So he knows the ins and he knows LA for sure. Like he knows LA. He knows he's a LA guy. Was a LA kid, Colorado, and then was he on the Seahawks staff in the NFL? Because I know he's on the Chiefs now, but
he's the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs.
No, I know, but was he ever on the Seahawks staff for some reason? For some reason,
so.
He might have been over there with Pete Carroll. That's actually a really good name. I didn't think, but that's actually a really good name.
Yeah, the other names are Iowa State Campbell, Iowa State's coach.
I don't like it. No.
Bill O'Brien, Bama.
Nope.
Schiano. Matt Schiano.
Yeah, Greg Schiano or Matt Schiano?
I'm sorry, Greg Schiano. Greg Schiano.
Rutgers.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the
Tennessee didn't touch him because of whatever. I like Schiano actually.
I like him too because
he was our D coordinator in Miami.
Oh, was he? Yeah. So Schiano. That's not a bad name, but if I had that Eric Bieniemy, that's a great name actually. I'm talking as a guy for sure who hates USC. Right. But as a college football fan and as wanting to watch good football or just exciting football, like it's one of those things too. Like Mike Leach isn't going to win a national championship, but his brand of football makes it exciting to watch. He's quotable, all those things that kind of make college football fun. Eric Bieniemy, I think would be
Franklin got mentioned.
Yes, so Franklin would be the guy that actually I would have picked to come over because he's a big time raw. He has that Pete Carroll raw energy, energetic recruiter. He makes things fun. He just has to make sure he gets the guys around him. Like any head coach, right? You need the right coaches around you to build. So that would actually be my pick. There was
Cincinnati coach got mentioned.
I don't like that. I don't like the Cincinnati head coach for that.
Those are the only names that I remember top of my head.
But man, the Eric Bieniemy, that's a fascinating pick.
Cristobal. got
Cristobal's not
mentioned.
leaving. He's not
I
leaving.
know he's not. I'm just telling you, he got mentioned.
Chris Peterson, the former Washington coach.
I think his name got mentioned too. I think I saw his name too.
He
Where is he now?
TV.
Okay.
He's in LA, I think. And we're seeing that I don't know what happened in Washington. It was really strange when Peterson left. It was like I think it was before the season or like just out of the blue. It was like Chris Peterson is stepping down. And it was like, what? I mean, they've been doing really well. And I don't know if it was they said Alabama might have been coming for the defensive coordinator. And it was like, hey, we're gonna have to promote this guy to make sure that we keep him. But Washington looks terrible. And it's like you made the wrong move if that was the case, or you weren't ready, but they're going to be needing a new coach. But Chris Peterson would be the guy who would be like, he would scheme it up, but I don't know if he would fit because he doesn't like the big cities. That's why he stayed so long at Boise State, and it took so long for him to even get to Washington. James Franklin, if they're gonna open up the bank and pull him out of Penn State, that'd be a huge move. And I think there'd be a chance there for the right amount of money.
So somebody sent me an article just before we got on, and it said tropical storm relating to the USC position. Tropical storm Urban Meyer just became a Category 4 hurricane.
Yeah, I don't see him. Well, you know what? Saban, same situation in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
The Bama job come open.
Don't count it out.
I'm here in Miami. That would be a scary move.
Yep.
Yeah.
In Jacksonville, depending on how they do, they may say take it. They may not like what they get out of Trevor Lawrence. He threw 3 picks. Anything he does is going to be blamed on Urban Meyer.
Yeah. But either way, we know he'll leave jobs, right?
Yeah, he will. I don't know about year 1, but yeah, he will.
Exactly. I mean, the NFL's a whole different, college football is an animal, and the NFL is even a bigger animal.
He didn't like recruiting, so
I don't know if he liked recruiting. He liked recruiting. He's a very good recruiter.
Somebody said, yeah, he was, but I think he got tired of the recruiting trail, which is one of the reasons why he left.
They always give reasons. They always get health reasons, recruiting. That guy loves football, and he's been super successul at college football. So
he's a great coach. He's a great coach.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can't rule him out now.
No,
the whole Saban thing too. That was the same kind of scenario. Man, that would be crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, the Pac-12 already has great coaches: Chip Kelly, Mario Cristobal.
You do. No question. Herm Edwards.
We'll see. Well, we're
seeing on all of them. I mean, if you're going to judge them on, you judging the great coaches by name, or you judging them by their success? If you judging them on success, Pac-12 sucks. Let's get that straight.
You have a point. A point. But we're seeing that the Cristobal and Kelly is starting to is starting to pay some dividends. Whereas
what? Yeah, you know what? Get out of here with UCLA, because you got 2 games into the season and you're calling it success. That's why you guys are going to get knocked off by Fresno, because you think you're having success right now.
We're looking good. Those boys.
You're not looking good. You're looking like UCLA.
Those boys were pups, and now they're getting all grown up. They know their schemes. They're disciplined.
Okay.
The highlights are not us getting run all over.
And let me.
Does Miami have a highlight? A play where it's just like
they do.
Scored like 2 touchdowns.
Me showing up at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium was the highlight of Miami.
Let's see. So the coaching staff, that Urban Meyer is that's a game changer, man. Let's see what we got here at the top 25. Where did I go? Share screen. All right, top 25 for this week. Bama, Georgia, good. This is week 3, right?
Yep. Oklahoma looked like they
Oklahoma,
needed
Oregon.
that game to
Get cleaned up.
yeah. Oregon, great win.
Great win. Iowa
Iowa, I
moved
am
up
not sold on
5.
Iowa at 5. I'm sorry. That is not going to last long. But they
Um,
played Kent State. So,
yeah, I guess they're just looking at it. Hey, they played Iowa State, and looks like they were at like 7 before.
so move up to Alabama again. So, Alabama plays Florida at Florida, the swamp.
Mm-hmm.
But Florida's got quarterback issues again, as usual. So,
Mm-hmm.
Alabama should like destroy them. Georgia's goes to South Carolina. They should be fine there. Oklahoma, Nebraska,
Nebraska's been bad.
terrible. Oklahoma should score 76 on them too.
But again, we have the Oklahoma factor, right? If
no
they
defense.
They're scoring.
But Nebraska has no offense, so neither did Tulane. So I don't know. Oh, but they should destroy Nebraska. Oregon versus Stony Brook. We nothing to say there.
No. Iowa, Kent State. Nope.
Nothing to say. Clemson, Georgia Tech. They might hit 100. A&M, New Mexico. This is a great game for that backup quarterback to get some reps in. Yeah. So that they needed that.
Cincinnati, Indiana. That's a decent game.
Cincinnati should win that game. They dropped one.
I don't know who they played.
Oh, you know why? No, because Oregon moved up.
Yeah, that's right. We had talked about it. And then Ohio State dropped 6. That's fair.
Yeah, they played Tulsa. Yeah. Okay.
And then Penn State, Auburn.
That's gonna be a game. That's gonna be the game of the week.
Yeah.
Penn State, Auburn. Bo Nix is not making mistakes, so that's gonna be. And I wasn't sure how Auburn was gonna be this year, and I'm still not. And I'm not sure how good Penn State is. So this is going to be, that's why this game is so, it's a whiteout game.
Whiteout game, baby. Those are always fun. Those usually go one of 2 ways. These are either they're great games or Penn State gets blown out. I think they've gotten blown out a couple whiteout games.
You know, Penn State's whiteout games are usually later in the year against a conference foe where it's cold. They chose it to go up against Auburn for their whiteouts. Say, hey, we need this win now.
They need it. Yeah, they have to.
That's good though. That's gonna be a good game.
The Big Ten, they need that. They need a signature win, right? Because Ohio State's fallen. So
yeah, that makes Penn State the
front
quasi favorite, for that division anyway, for sure. And they beat Wisconsin, which would be the favorite in the other division. So Penn State's the favorite in that conference right now.
Yeah, Penn State. This team. I mean, we were talking about Franklin going to USC. They'd have to pony up some big bucks, especially if he's winning over there. So, man, the SC coaching search is.
And here's the thing: if Penn State loses, you may have knocked out the Big Ten from the playoffs before their conference starts.
Yeah,
but I think Michigan ain't gonna be it.
But I like I said, I think this year there's gonna be
a one-loss team could do it.
Yes.
But think about this. So let's say Cincinnati runs the table. Because they could. Notre Dame's not good, right? That's their toughest game. If Cincinnati runs the table and goes undefeated, do you put them over a one-loss Penn State or the winner of the Penn State-Ohio State game?
You know what? Every year I would say no. But this year, because everybody looks so iffy, this might be the year if they did that they'd have a chance to get in.
And it had to be impressive, obviously. So you got that going on.
Yeah.
Now, do you put them over a one-loss Georgia team? If Georgia just runs the table, loses to Bama in the SEC conference.
No, because if you see the way that Georgia defense played against Clemson and they're playing like that, then you're like, oh, their offense just wasn't.
Yeah, because strength of schedule matters.
Well, but then you just know, like, hey, if Cincinnati had to play that Georgia front, they'd get massacred.
They sure would. So it's too early to even have these scenarios. We'll wait for the real scenarios to come out. But Cincinnati needs to keep winning for sure. And Penn State, Auburn, because Auburn can't. If Auburn loses this game, they're in trouble because they got to go through the gauntlet after this. So
where's Auburn? Auburn is.
I was like 25 or.
Yeah, that's 22. Not bad. 22.
Yeah. You got BYU, ASU.
BYU. That's gonna be an interesting game because uh ASU, they've been talking about them being favored in the Pac-12 South, and they got a lot of talent. But I've never been like, oh, this is the year that ASU is going to jump. I've always watched them and be like, oh,
No,
they're
they're
they're.
terrible.
Whereas BYU, to me, they look. I actually think that BYU is probably going to win the game.
Me too. BYU at least schedules people. ASU,
Oh, they have to.
Southern Utah.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, so ASU hasn't even been tested.
The thing is that man, BYU just came off of a physical game against Utah, and ASU has been playing. I don't know who they've played. I think they played
Nobody.
like,
Southern
yeah,
Utah and UNLV.
yeah,
That's who they play.
yeah.
The reason why I know because I got an ASU fan that's always texting me. And it's like, I don't want to hear it. Play somebody first.
So I think that that game will be really good. Oh man, Miami, Michigan State.
um, Michigan State was terrible last year. They seem to have improved, especially defensively this year. So Miami has not been impressive. That game can go either way. Miami needs to step up and make a statement game.
Where's the game at?
Miami?
You would think that like, oh, it's a home game, but Miami, there's no really home field advantage for Miami.
Other than the fact you don't have to go to Michigan.
The only thing you could say is that maybe it's gonna be hot and humid for those Michigan boys.
Maybe Miami just got to play. They haven't played a good game yet. Appalachian State was not a good game for them, in my opinion.
That's been a typical Miami game.
Mm-hmm. Now I know next week we got Central Connecticut, so they want to go in the conference 3-1, not 2-2 or 3-2. Yeah, 2-2. Right now, what are we 1-1? Yeah, they want to go in 3-1. So you got to beat.
At what point do you just want them to lose so they fire Manny Diaz?
Talk to me after the game.
I mean, wouldn't you want to just do it now just to see? Because don't you get just tired of seeing the same thing? Like that happened with me with Jim when Jim Mora was towards the end. It was like we have undisciplined football. They're not playing hard. Like it's not fun to watch anymore. Just let me see somebody else be in charge because the players get kind of energized by a change at the top, and they're like, hey, it's a kind of a screw it season. So they kind of start experimenting and, we put guys in that, in different spots to kind of give them looks and things like that. Basically, you've kind of extended a spring practice or a fall camp.
Well, Miami hasn't lost to anybody they weren't supposed to lose to yet. So jury's still out. We haven't looked good either. Should have been competitive against Bama, but you weren't. And I don't know how many teams are going to be. Appalachian State's not that bad, but you should have.
No, you know what? We've had this conversation. I have respect for the Appalachian State program, so
yeah.
I thought that they could have won that game, and I wouldn't have been shocked if they did. So that's a solid game, but Miami still has way more dogs.
Yes, and Michigan State they have way more dogs too.
Can you give me an update? Have they done anything with my boy James Williams? Because if not, my boy Chip Kelly needs to, he needs to talk to my boy Chip Kelly and head on over to Westwood.
This is tampering.
Did they do anything with him? Is he lined up 14 yards off the ball still?
Mm-hmm. Diaz is calling the defense.
If I was him, I'm like, look, coach, I'm going to redshirt. Let's save it. He's going to be a 3-year guy anyway, so he's gone.
Yeah. He ain't redshirting anyway.
No, I know, but even if he redshirted, he's not going to stay the extra year because he'll just take off.
Mm-hmm.
Look, coach, just can you line me up on offense and just design something for me to get the ball in my hands? Like this guy is a freakish talent, man. This it's really disappointed as a college football fan. I know the only animus I have towards Miami is that you just talk about them so much. I actually don't mind Miami. I rooted for them back in the day with my boy Ed Reed, one of the greatest of all time.
You were a wise man back then. Now you
deteriorated
as you got older.
I liked watching good football. You couldn't say that wasn't good football that they had.
But it wasn't good football. It was great football.
What they're doing with James Williams is a football.
You call him Sean Taylor, and then you put him way back like he's returning a punt.
You could do that with anybody. You could do that with me, right? Like there's nothing. Yeah. So Michigan State. I'm actually kind of rooting for them to lose just because I want them to get some juice, get something
If
going,
we lose,
get the
I want
coaching.
Diaz gone, and I want to go after Urban Meyer and just pay him to get out of Jacksonville. How about that?
Oh, that would be amazing.
I made my decision. It's Urban Meyer, no one else.
That's the guy.
Or go get Saban. Either one, I'm fine.
Miami's too cheap. Miami's too cheap.
I know they are.
They're not going to pay for Urban Meyer.
I know.
They're not.
You know what?
Not
I don't
Florida.
care. Go get him. I'll write the check.
That's a big check. He would fit. I think he would fit down there in Miami because I mean the Florida connections are down there.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
Yep. But
I don't think you'd pay for that. So you'd have to look at somebody else. That's where you guys
first let's lose. We haven't lost, so
that's what I'm saying, man. Fire Diaz and
win games.
Put the
10-1, baby.
Put the interim guy. You might get lucky and come up on a Dabo situation.
10-1.
That's your best. Okay. UCLA Fresno State is we had talked about the Oregon game being closer than it was. We see that Oregon can play, and Fresno is a scrappy team. Like they're probably on a higher level than Appalachian State. They get better players than Appalachian State does, but they're scrappy. The quarterback made some plays. I kind of rewatched a little bit of the Oregon Fresno game kind of quickly because before it was like there's really no need to pay attention, but now that Oregon played well and they played them so tough. They're playing down in UCLA, but I think UCLA wins the game for sure. But I think Fresno's gonna. Fresno has a history, even going back to the USC Reggie
Freedom
Bush
Bowl.
days. No, the Reggie Bush game where they almost beat them. That was the year that SC lost to Texas in the national championship. But they almost lost to Fresno that year, and that was the year that Reggie Bush is running down the sideline. He pumps the brakes and then cuts across, and then scores. But that was Fresno State. So they're a long time scrappy program. They're always physical. They're always flying around. They get tough kids there. They're just maybe not as athletic as the Pac-12 or whatever group of 5 players.
Here's the thing. Number one, Appalachian State would beat Fresno. Number 2,
tell yourself that would make you feel better.
And if you took a poll, I bet you they'd come pull up Appalachian State. Number 2, Fresno's scrappy because you see them when they're non-conference games are against the Pac-12. So they're always competitive because they're playing the Pac-12. Number 3, not only should the Pac-12 have gone after BYU, they should have went after Fresno State too.
You think so?
I think they should have went after Fresno State, BYU, Boise State, and maybe either Utah State or San Diego State, who, by the way, massacred Arizona.
I think that's too California centric. That's too much California.
It's Pacific 12.
No, I know.
You got to own the region.
No, I get what you're saying, but the Boise State, that would have been great. The BYU, that would
right. So that's 2 right there. So it's not California centric. You just added 2 more, but it could be Utah State or San Diego State.
Yeah. Either way, it's not going to happen.
Or 2 out of those 3 of Utah. It's not going to happen. But the Pac-12 needs to do something.
Well, yeah, they lost BYU already, so that hurts. Yeah.
Unless you go and pluck one of the Texas schools and get the Texas market, I don't see that happening.
No, because I thought that we should have gone after Houston.
What about SMU?
Mm-mm.
Nope. You're done. Okay.
No, I would have gone after Houston. They had the Fertitta guy. I don't know his name, but he was a UFC. He's big time booster. He's kind of like the Phil Knight for Houston, and he had been pushing to get Houston in the Big 12 before Oklahoma and Texas left. But now the Big 12 you're going into isn't the same Big 12, so it's really like I don't really know if it might be a step up for them money wise, but over long term, I don't see.
Yeah, they're no more a Power 5 conference than the Pac-12. All that did was legitimize Cincinnati now that they can now get a berth if they win that.
Yeah, but that's a few years away though. but still.
Yeah. Well, it could happen sooner than they might buy out.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess for this year, the way things are looking, if they go undefeated, that this would be a year that they'd be able to make it in, because I think the other teams that
Well, because they're already 8. That's why.
Yeah, that and the traditional schools are going to play each other, and they're going to lose. That's what I've seen so far.
And Cincinnati's playing Indiana. They're playing Notre Dame. So they up their non-conference schedule a bit. So good for them.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there. The UCLA Fresno game is a late game, so I might need to take a nap.
It's on the Pac-12 network. Do you even have that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I get that.
You get that and not ESPNU? What a disgrace.
I got to pay extra for those extra ESPN channels.
And you don't have to pay extra for the Pac-12 network? Mm-hmm. No. So they're giving it out to people for free and they still don't watch it. Interesting.
That's a different conversation. How much of a mistake that was. We could have had CBS or ESPN, but no, Pac-12.
Yeah. Fox televises the Pac-12.
I like Fox. I like Joel Klatt when he announces him, and I think it's Charles Johnson. Anyway, though, man, this is week 3 of the college football edition of Read Your Keys. Bama versus Florida, Auburn versus Penn State. That's a big one. ASU, BYU. That should actually be a good. It's gonna be an entertaining game because BYU is physical. ASU has athletes. You can go Mimi.
Mimis. Yeah.
That was me, the Alabama Miami game. I was like, dang, I could take a nap.
That was me too.
If it wasn't there, if it had been week 1, it's like you just waiting and just like finally it's here. And it's like, this is so boring, but I've waited so long.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Anyway, though, we'll do this again next week. We'll go and check in. Ricky, always fun. Go ahead and like, subscribe, whatever else. Smash the like buttons. Have a good one, everybody.
All right. Take care.